The honourable member from Steveston, Richmond East.
Mr. Speaker, it's my honour to stand in this House for the first time to discuss and debate the speech from the throne. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the good people of Steveston, East Richmond. I truly feel blessed and honoured to be their Member of Parliament. I'd like to begin, though, by paying homage to my grandparents and my parents, my nonno and nonna. God bless them. They're not here any longer, but they took care of me. They raised me. They gave me the values and principles that I hold dear, while my mom and dad, Loreto and Margarita Peschisolido, came from a small little town, Ciprano, just south of Rome. While they were working, my mom and dad started out, my mom started out as, she worked at a dry cleaner. My dad started out picking up stuff on streets, and then they owned some stores and whatnot, and they gave me everything. But while they were away working and doing business, my mom, my grandma, and my granddad, nonno and nonna, they took care of me. And in many ways, I'm here because of them. And in my riding of Steveston, East Richmond, I have many folks like my parents and my grandparents and myself who come from a variety of parts in the world, perhaps have the most diverse riding in all of Canada, be it ethnically, socio-economically. Et je suis fier d'être le député.
I am proud to be the member of this riding, Richmond Steveston, which has people from all over the world, people of Chinese, English origin.
Originally, one's parents or themselves or their grandparents, whether it's from England, whether it's from the Philippines, whether it's from Punjab, you probably find them in Steveston, East Richmond. And I'm also blessed that I have a riding that's very diverse economically. I have an airport not exactly in my riding, but just a little bit north. I have a harbor. I have a port. And in the speech from the throne, we talked about reinstating the Kitsilano Coast Guard. And it was done. And for a place like Steveston, East Richmond, where we have the south arm of the Fraser and the north arm, where we have a lot of boaters and folks going out, to have the security that there is now a Coast Guard station not that far, well, that's a good thing. And we promised that during the campaign. It was in the speech from the throne, and it has been done. But you know, I talked about my parents, and I talked about my nonno and my nonna. And in Steveston, East Richmond, there's a lot of folks who are waiting for their parents. In fact, a lot of folks are waiting for their spouses. And in the speech from the throne, we talked about changing, revamping our immigration system. We shouldn't have a system where it takes, depending on where you're coming from in the world, 4 to 8, 9 years to bring over your parents and grandparents. Or a system where you have to wait 2 years before you even put an application to ask for your spouse to come over. I don't know how I would have dealt with not having my mom and dad around, or my nonno and nonna around. And I don't think anyone should have to be in that situation. So we spoke in the speech from the throne, and we will do and commit to doubling the funds in the processing of family members. We need to do that. Once again, it's not a good thing. It's just wrong for individuals to wait 4 to 9 years to bring over parents and grandparents. I discussed a little bit about Steveston, East Richmond, about the port and the airport. One of the things that we talked about in the speech from the throne is a fancy word, cooperative federalism. Basically means that we're going to be talking to one another. And I've been blessed that I've had the opportunity to sit down with His Worship Malcolm Brodie. I had the opportunity to sit down with the Speaker of the House or the Legislative Assembly in British Columbia, to talk to the MLA from Steveston, to discuss a variety of issues. And also we had a fancy word in the speech from the throne, stakeholders. Well, that basically means community groups, people. And I've had that opportunity to go out and talk to a whole slew of folks. And one thing that we talked about was the infrastructure spending that we talked about in the speech from the throne, and we will be implementing. Infrastructure spending that'll go to transit. There's a lot of folks in Steveston, East Richmond who want to get to work, they don't want to drive. Well, there's bottlenecks. Now, in the campaign and in the speech from the throne, we're not going to dictate how we're going to use this infrastructure money for transit. But I've had the opportunity to sit down with, once again, His Worship Malcolm Brodie, the councillors as well, to talk about ideas on what's the best way to getting rid of those bottlenecks. And I've had great conversations with the food bank, great conversations with Pathway and other organizations to see how we can also use money from the infrastructure spending to also get the economy going, because we do need to kickstart our economy, but also to see how we can help those who need help with social housing, with help for those who need a little bit more than just a roof over their heads and maybe need a bit of help on some issues of abuse, some issues of having alcohol problems or mental health. And that's the type of approach that this government will do. And I look forward to spending at least another 4 years as the Member of Parliament in Steveston, East Richmond, speaking to the good folks there and hearing from them what they'd like to see moving forward. The last thing I'd like to talk about, Mr. Speaker, is the nature of Steveston, East Richmond. To paraphrase Ronald Reagan and some parts of the Bible, and I apologize, Mr. Speaker, I forget where, but I believe that Steveston, East Richmond acts as a beacon to the world, a lamp, a wonderful light on a hill. Well, we're not on a hill, but we're in an estuary, but still. We have folks from everywhere. We have folks that have different faiths. We have number 5 road in Steveston, East Richmond, and we call it Highway to Heaven, where we have churches, synagogues, we have mosques, temples, and where people from different faiths and different backgrounds, we get together. And you know, sometimes the human condition is such that there is conflict. And our roles as Member of Parliament is to make sure that, well, if you can't eliminate the conflict, at least manage it. And that is something that I believe our cooperative federalism approach will be taken into dealing with the good people of Steveston, East Richmond. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to address you in the House.